that changes.
Yeah, and it shifts a little bit too.
But it is going to be an overnight tornado threat.
And damaging wind threat too. And flood threat. I mean, there's a lot of floods. And, you know, we also have strong winds. We could have them 40 from the East Coast thanks to a high pressure to our north, bringing a clockwise flow, and we've had a little boundary. So there's been a bit of a pressure gradient here along the East Coast. So we have wind advisories. There's our high. Jim was showing you those east winds, and that's what's just causing all this push of water, especially into South Florida. And they had to bring out those tiger dams because they had overwash in some places. Rip current as well. I know it's December, but yes, some people still get in the water, especially the northerners growing up there. And we always knew who was not from Florida when they were in the ocean in these December, January, February range. So there's the low pressure developing as we head into the weekend. It's going to deepen, it's going to tighten, and that means we're going to have strong winds. Look at us already gusting 30, 35. We were at, I think, near 40 yesterday in some places. Coastal flood advisories with not only that onshore push here on the East Coast, but that push of water from our low coming up into the Cedar Key area as well. Let's watch the winds because they will really start to crank on Saturday when we have that low. There it is coming in. There's your center of your low, and the tighter these white lines get, the isobars, the stronger the winds are going to get. So look at 40-mile-an-hour winds here along the East Coast, up to maybe even 50-mile-an-hour winds for us as the low blows through for our Sunday morning. It always takes a little bit of time for these to kind of taper off, so you might have to wait a couple days for that to really slow down. But high surf advisory, we do have our waves here in that 5 to 12-foot range, so it's going to be a little rough out there. And then, of course, we do have the rip current risk, East Coast, and then we do have it also here, Apalachicola. Even if it's moderate or low, you still have to be really, really careful out there. All right, let's have a closer look at what it's going to be like in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yep, and that's
going to cause all that messy weather into Florida and in the East Coast. There's a little piece of energy here. You see more energy diving down behind that, and that actually combines with some energy that we have in the Gulf to cause that mess. But there it is for you. You see that snow on the backside of it, stronger thunderstorms and rain on the east side of it, even some lightning this hour, and heavy rainfall here. Oklahoma City, we're almost to the backside of that line, but you still have to wait for the upper level energy to come through in order to finally see those clearer skies, because it will stay cloudy and it will stay unsettled. Even though you might not get precip, you can't ever sleep on that upper level low. We talk about that all the time. Watch this whole entity move east. And again, this is just part of what's going to make our low pressure into the Gulf and move up the East Coast. It's going to ride along I-10, I-20, I-40, all the way into the Great Lakes, right over areas that really need the rain, from Oklahoma to Texas and along the Mississippi River Valley. So this is much needed rain for these drought-stricken areas. And boom, look at that. It's going to cover right over most of those areas. Now, it's not a lot of rain, but we'll take all that we can get. And even just having a little bit is good, because too much at once obviously could cause some flooding. Dallas, it's a morning event for you, same as Fort Worth, I-35. It's going to be soggy. We do clear out, though, as we head into the evening hours, and we will see clearer conditions as we head into the weekend. How about Houston? We're an area that it's going to take a minute for the system to get into us, but you can see some of that moisture coming off the Gulf ahead of it. And then as we head into the overnight hours, you could have some boomers out there, too, by the way. So this might be waking you up. Be careful for that. Threat of flooding is there through tomorrow morning with that heavier rain coming through. The good news is, Jordan, it's moving through fairly quickly, so that will be our one saving grace.
Well, we do have...
Great job there, Jim, Alex, and our entire team that puts that together. Is a huge team behind the scenes to really show you the impacts of a tornado. And we want to bring it up because there is a threat for tornadoes in Florida. So if we look at December, we had 36 here on the 9th of tornado reports. That was the big outbreak in Kentucky and Tennessee. And unfortunately, we could see more, but mainly in Florida. There was one EF3 and, of course, tremendous damage here with all of these tornadoes that spread through the Gulf Coast. This is the area we do see them this time of year. You can have tornadoes in every month of the year as we go into January. Florida really is the place because you have the warmth, you have the lift, you get that subtropical jet going ahead as well. And our average tornado reports in December is 62. So we're already halfway there. I don't like that. I hope that that trend does not continue. But sadly, things are going to continue to stay warm. There's not really a cold outbreak as we head into next week. So that is one of the ingredients, of course, that you do need Welcome back into America's Morning Headquarters on this Friday. The downright nasty weather this weekend in Florida won't stay in Florida. Dangerous winds, relentless rain, coastal flooding, rip currents. Clearwater Beach could see tides rival the level that we saw during Idalia. Sanford called off its Jingle Jam Festival that was set for Saturday. And what gets started in Florida is going to make its way up the East Coast. We have just gnarly weather for us here, Jordan, all along the I-95 corridor.
Yeah, and of course, everyone in Florida has already
Very Santa-like when he lets the field. It's very, it's there. You could do it. You could do it, Jim. All right. Well, let's find out who's naughty or nice. Where does Jim fall on this list? I think it depends on the type of weather you get, right? We're going to start you off. This is basically a play on my TW single segment that we do. So essentially, we're going to swipe down if we don't like it. We're going to swipe up if we do like it. So how about all this rain in Florida? We're actually going to be swiping down on this because, the thing is we don't need any more where we're getting it. This one's kind of iffy. You could kind of swipe, up or down depending on where you are on the coast because it's really dry on the West Coast and really wet here on the East Coast. How about the rain going up into the Carolinas? Well, this one we're going to swipe down because there's a potential for significant flooding along the I-95 corridor. But then you get it again and maybe sometimes you see the picture and you're like, nah, and then it comes around again. You're like, well, maybe. That's what's happening with this one because we're going to swipe up because this rain is going to fall right over drought-stricken areas. So that will be good to have some rain here for us. The winds in the Northeast, 50, 60 miles an hour. This is definitely down. I don't think anyone looks at that and is like, yes, bring it to me. Travel is going to be just a nightmare on Monday. I'm telling you, this is going to be worse than what it was last weekend. The winds are a lot stronger for us here. And then you have all this heat. And Jordan, this is another one. Some people might swipe up. Some people might swipe down. I'm going to go up because it's going to make travel a whole heck of a lot easier without snow and freezing temperatures.
Okay. I'll go down.
Okay.
But wow. Hard-hitting
It's
storm
going to be
here.
intense.
Think about this. Storm surge, squall line, maybe nocturnal tornadoes. Wow.
There's a lot going on. So let's get into more details because Jim was just kind of because there's a high pressure to our north. I'll show you in a second. That's coming around like this. And then we've had a little boundary here and we're getting a little pressure gradient in between. And that's why the east coast of Florida has been getting some of the worst winds. There's your high onshore push coming in. Again, we had that little boundary too here. And so that actually can accelerate some of those winds coming ashore, which has been already giving us impact. So imagine now you have a tightly wound low, and then we're still going to have this high. It kind of migrates over. It's not red, but bear with me. And so the two of these together is going to accelerate the winds in between. It's not just about the low, not just about the high. It's about how strong they are and how close they are together that can really make things worse. So once this low develops, we're going to see even gustier winds than this. We have coastal advisories on the West Coast, also on the East Coast. Watch how things really crank. I mean, we're 30, 35 mile an hour winds, but once our low starts to take shape and deepens, you're going to get them 40, maybe even you'll see 50 miles an hour pop up on here. Travel is going to be a nightmare. This is really kind of your last weekend to do your Christmas shopping. I mean, you do still have, a little bit of time next week and into next weekend, but if you're a weekend shopper, it's going to be really, really hard. And some of those deliveries might get delayed. Keep that in mind. High surf advisories. We're seeing, 5 to 12 foot waves here. It is definitely nasty out there. Rip current risk is really high in the East Coast, also here around Apalachicola. But even where it's lower moderate, I would say be very cautionary. And Jordan, what's funny being, I've said this a ton of times, but I'll say it again. You know who the non-Floridians are when they are in the water during December, January, and February, even March, really. Because Floridians is too cold.
It's too cold for them. Got it.
Upper level energy that we have coming through. A piece of this is going to gang up with some energy in the Gulf, and that's going to go up the East Coast. We even have more energy you can kind of see dropping down here. So we're getting it from a lot of different areas really coming together. There's your rain. There's your thunderstorms. Heavier showers on the border of Kansas and also into Oklahoma. A little bit of snow on the backside of this system. But this main line is about to make its way here into Fort Worth and then eventually over into Dallas. A rough morning commute, so if you're watching, you get out the door real quick to avoid that mess. I would highly recommend it. I know perhaps this is the last day of school for a lot of kids or out for the next couple of weeks. Showers coming in. And they will be clearing out, which is good for dinner time, so at least things will quiet down. College Station, Texarkana, Little Rock, this is all pushing east. And then this is some of that energy that is going to be part of our system moving up the East Coast. We need it over the south. It is dry, and I'm telling you, it is exceptionally dry. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and then we just have extreme drought through several other states as well. The rain goes essentially right over it. Now, it's not a lot of rain, but we'll take it. It is some rain, so we'll take what we can get here. There are your storms. Fort Worth, we're going to be getting them by 7 a.m. Dallas, they get into you around 8 a.m., so maybe the kids going to middle school. I know they go a little bit later than the elementary school, might be getting soaked, and then that is all going to continue east. When I was a kid, guess what? It rained, still on your bike. Ride that bike. That's right. You know, yeah, that's what raincoats are for. And so there and back, there was no one to, to do it. You just got on your bike. As we go into Houston, some moisture coming off the Gulf, and then you see those stronger storms. By the way, I can't rule out some strong storms coming through and some of these thunderstorms, a little bow out there for you. And so do watch out for that. At least we will be clearing out fairly quickly, Jordan.
When you were a kid, did middle school?
I think they use some of the same buses, and they don't want everyone at one time going.
Interesting. Mine was at the same time.
And our Emmy Award-winning IMR team, they do these, and they're so realistic. You really can get an idea of what it's like. Of course, if that debris was flying around, Jim would be in tremendous danger and why you have to seek shelter. Let's have a look at our tornado reports. We've already had 40 reported tornadoes. Of course, the 9th and the 10th is when we had a lot of them in Kentucky and also into Tennessee. They stretched down to the Gulf Coast, into the Carolinas with this EF3, EF2. There was 5 of those, and of course, they were very, very damaging. We do typically have them in December, in January, closer to the coast, down into Florida, which is where we could see them as we head into tomorrow. So it wouldn't be like a total shock if we did. But notice December averages 62. We're already past half that. So that's not a good sign since we still have a couple more weeks left here in December. But as we head into tonight, you really need to be careful because that's where a storm is going to develop in Florida and then make its way into New York City, weighing down in buckets. In fact, we could see flooding rain from Florida really all the way up the East Coast. There's good and bad with this. It's bad because not only are we going to see the rain, but we're going to get that push of water on shore. So you're getting water from 2 different places. That's obviously not good. The good about this is that we have drought, and so this will fall right on some of those drier areas. Notice that possibility of flooding from the Carolinas all the way up into New England. This is through Monday morning. It's going to be a very big deal. Charleston, this is one of those areas that you don't even need a big storm, but I'm telling you, we are going to see flooding in Charleston. Not only will we have that onshore push of our winds, 30, 40, maybe 50 miles an hour, rain coming down as well, it's going to be a pretty sloppy Saturday, especially as we head into our Sunday. As we head into our Monday, the sun will be back and we will see pretty decent temperatures at 62. Raleigh, North Carolina, now we're farther inland, but if that low tracks inland right over us, you're going to get rain and then you're going to get the wind as well. That maybe could take down some trees because if you're right by the center of the low, it's almost like, I don't want to really compare it to a hurricane, but I'm trying to think of something else that I can think of. But it's really intense during, close to that center of that low when you're dropping below 1,000 millibars. There's your snow into the higher elevations. Heavy rain here into the northeast as well. So there is that possibility of flooding through our Tuesday forecast. And New York, we get it. Sunday night. I mean, this thing really expands out. It has wide-reaching arms. So we already start to get it as we head into our Sunday, and it's going to linger into our Monday evening because it takes its sweet time getting out. Boston, it's later in the day on Sunday and then through Monday night. Notice the temperatures, though. Oy. The 40s in rain, the 50s in rain, even 60 in rain with the wind. It's pretty miserable. D.C., this will pull out of us as we head through our Monday. And look at those temperatures. Sunday night only 52. And then, Jim, some drier air down to 35, which, by the way, is probably more close to where we should be. It's just been extremely warm.
So there's another little upper which hour?
Talk about the weather being naughty or nice. This is a play on my TW single segment where you swipe down if it's bad and you swipe up if it's good. So if it's naughty, we're swiping down. If it's nice, we're going to swipe up. All of this rain in Florida through Sunday. What are you going to do? Well, this one's a tough one. Some people might want to swipe up, and some people are going to swipe down depending on what side of the coast you live on. Here's the thing. We're going to get a lot of rain on the east coast of Florida. So if you're an east coast, Floridian, you're swiping down. We are well above average. 14, 15. I think Fort Lauderdale is nearly 50 inches above average on rainfall. So that's why we're swiping down. But obviously, if you live on the West Coast, you're going to say, we need that rain. We want to swipe up. Now, how about the rain here into Georgia and also into the Carolinas? Another one where you're like, do I want to go up or down? It's going to be on a weekend, nice and cozy, but we're going to swipe down on this here because there's a threat for flooding with this rain. But, sometimes you swipe through someone and then they come back around and you're like, do they? Yeah, that happens. And then sometimes you're like, all right, maybe I'm just going to swipe up. I'm going to swipe up.
Really?
I see something good. Well, if you find the good in everything, we have drought. So it's good for the drought, bad for the fact that we are going to see the flooding rain. Now, this in the Northeast, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to look at this and swipe down. We can collectively go down on this because Monday's travel is going to be a mess. If you're trying to do holiday shopping, it's going to be a mess. It's not very good at all. This one's another one where it depends on how old you are in Jim's case. When you're young, you would swipe down. But now that Jim's, his blood's thinning out, he's spending more time in the South,
I'm
So with this one, we're going to swipe up. Because with all the warmth across the country,
my buddy Chuck just bought
we're not going to have to deal with the ice. We're not going to have to deal with the snow. And so all these millions of people traveling, guys, it should be easy weather-wise, at least with the temps.
That's good. I guess that's
finished beach restoration. Up there. And now they've got that on. They've got several high tide cycles they're going to go through that are just going to beat the beaches up.
They've been doing that for the last couple of days with this high pressure, just, pounding the shore here. So let's talk more about that. We want 30, 40 mile an hour already. Here are our wind advisories from essentially the Space Coast all the way down into South Florida. There's the high pressure, and it's a clockwise flow. So we've just had this onshore push of winds. We've also had a little boundary here giving us a bit of a pressure gradient, and that's why they've been so gusty for us. So onshore flow has made our rip current rough here. Once this low develops, we are going to see it tighten up and strengthen. And it's not just the low, our ridge, it's how strong our high and our low are and how close they are together gives us a pressure gradient in between them with some stronger winds. So that's what we're going to see develop. And this low is going to come down pretty good. Look at this, Miami gusting near 40, West Palm in the 30s, the same into Melbourne. And that's that onshore push that's coming in for us. That is going to rise the water up. That means you're going to have coastal flooding here and coastal erosion, what Jim was alluding to. Watch this low pressure tighten up, and you'll notice the winds go up to 30, even up to 40 miles an hour. So there's your low. I'm draw it in white so it's easier to see. The closer these white lines are together, then the breezier it is. These are isobars. It's a line of equal pressure, line of constant pressure. And so the closer they are together, the breezier it is. And look at this thing tighten up for us here. I mean, these winds are going to be cranking. And especially on the east side, look how tight these winds are here. Those are going to be cranking off of the relatively smooth water that you have coming in, and then it just continues from there. It always takes a minute for the winds to die down. Those usually reach out pretty far. But high surf advisory, you can have waves up to 12 feet. And then, of course, we have the rip current risk, not only on the East Coast, but even low to moderate. You got to be careful, especially if you're not used to being down here. A lot of people traveling for the holidays, a lot of, northerners coming down and getting in the water and maybe not necessarily used to it. It's going to be really rough out there, Jordan.
Yeah, and we got to continue
our upper level energy. And part of this is going to be part of that system that's going to affect Florida and the entire East Coast. So here is your low spiraling around. You can see some more energy diving in, and you can see a lot of subtropical jet energy going across the Gulf of Mexico. This is going to swing east. It's going to morph a little bit. There's going to be other pieces of energy that come into it that are going to help amplify it. But this is a pretty gnarly little system coming through Kansas, Oklahoma, down into Texas as well. It is racing eastbound, too. Notice Fort Worth moving into Dallas. So I know this is the last day of school for a lot of kids around the country. They have next week off completely. And so, yeah, they have the next 2 weeks off. So a little bit of a wet one for us, but it is going to breeze through fairly quickly. As we head into the afternoon hours, we'll start to clear out, dry up a little bit. Texarkana, Little Rock, Alexandria, Jackson, and it's all going to be moving east. Now, notice it kind of looks a little bit different as it gets over here, but remember, it is transforming. We are seeing energy come into it, energy stretch out a little bit, but it's all going to come into this ball that's going to go up the East Coast. It will fall right over the dry conditions from the Appalachians back down into Texas. We need it here because it's so dry. We're not going to get a lot of rain. That's kind of good. If we could just get like an inch a day, that'd be great. Inch a day for a month, right? We could really wipe out our deficits. Dallas and Fort Worth all the way up into Gainesville, the Red River Valley, 35, I-20. It is slow going. But notice here as the kids are coming home and dinner time, it's going to be nice and quiet. So you can get out and barbecue or head to dinner and not have to worry about that rain. Houston, it's going to be a little bit later for us. Obviously, we're a little bit farther east, some of that moisture from the Gulf coming in. And then as we go through overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, that's when the rain comes through. Jordan.
Well, we got a lot more.
And we want to make sure that everyone survives. Of course, we had a terrible tornado outbreak just last weekend. Saturday into Sunday, 40 tornadoes in total, and we did have one EF3 here into Tennessee and Kentucky and multiple EF2s to EF0s. Notice they went from Kentucky to the Carolinas all the way down into Florida, and Florida is a spot that we can see tornadoes this time of year. It's really in the south, so you need that warm air, you need the lift, you got the subtropical jet you can tap into, and it's not only December but also January in these same areas you can get tornadoes. We can get them in every month of the year. There isn't a single month where we haven't had any. Obviously, they're lower during the winter, but it's just been so warm. It's too bad we can't get some cold air south in order to really kind of shut off the tornado maker, because on Saturday there is a chance that we could see some in Florida. Now, what's happening in Florida will make it. Welcome back into America's Morning Headquarters on this Friday. The downright nasty weather this weekend in Florida won't stay there. Dangerous winds, relentless rains, coastal flooding, rip currents. Clearwater Beach could see tides rival the level that we saw during Idalia. Sanford called off its Jingle Jam Festival set for Saturday. And all of this mess that you see behind me, this is all going to be making its way up the I-95 corridor. It's beginning today, really ramps up, Jordan, as we head into tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, for any kind of big event.
We want to go traveling because I know this is really the last day of school for a lot of kids around the country. You might already start your holiday travel, have a nice long 2-week vacay in plan for you. Well, if you're traveling here into southern Texas, either in central northern Texas and Oklahoma, you're going to run into those showers. Now, this whole system is going to be making its way east through the day. It's going to be riding along 40, I-10, I-20, all the highways here. We'll clear out around lunchtime around Oklahoma City. And then maybe a few showers into the evening hours till that. You got to wait for that whole upper level piece of energy to come on through. And there's another little piece coming down, too. So you got to wait for that all to clear till you are in the clear. Houston, open the windows. Sunshine, 60s, love it. We will see some showers come in as we head overnight into tomorrow morning. A little bit of messy travel through the center of the country. Florida, I don't think Orlando will be too bad today. Tomorrow, though, travel along the East Coast is going to be an absolute mess with the rain, the wind, severe weather. Guys, it's going to be a rough Saturday through really kind of Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So let's this morning. At least that's how I'm feeling. But everyone has different perspectives in life, so
absolutely.
I don't know what your perspective of me is at the moment.
Depends on the hour. That's all.
But naughty or nice, we're going to play a little game here. This is a play on my TW single segment that we do, where you swipe down if you don't like it, you swipe up if you do. So naughty down, nice up. I'm going to show you a forecast. Florida. You see all this rain into Florida. This one's a little one where you might look at it and be like, nah, I'm going to swipe down. You show your friend, they're like, ooh, yeah, swipe up. And the reason being is the East Coast is going to get a lot of rain, and the West Coast is going to get a lot of rain. But because the East Coast is going to get more, I'm going to swipe down because it is just so far above average, double digit above average. But you see why we'd swipe up if we lived on the West Coast, because we need it. It's very, very dry. How about the rain going into the Carolinas? Well, on this one, we're going to swipe down because it has a possibility of flooding. But you know, on a dating app, sometimes a person comes back around and you're like, All right, maybe I'll give it a try. I see a little something good in there. Well, the same thing comes back around. We're going to swipe up on this one because it's dry. And so we need the rain on these drought conditions. Everybody's looking at this picture and going down. No good. With all that wind and rain, it is going to make Monday an absolute mess for traveling. And then the warmth here is kind of like, do we like or do we not like? It all depends on who you are, but for this one, we're going to swipe up because that will make for everyone starting to travel, Jordan, here, millions upon millions upon millions. It'll make for easy travel.
How are we supposed to judge the weather?